We'll bring to order the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners meeting for March 9th, 2020. The abatements have been signed.
Yeah.
Bernie, you've got them? All
I
right.
do.
The minutes of February 18th. The only thing I saw was an superintendent's status report.
I saw that as well.
Second line from the bottom, broken filter previously, and it's reported with the number 4 in
Yes.
it. Anyone else see anything that, all right,
And it also says it was sandblasted and painted, but that is to be done. So.
to be done?
Yes.
Okay.
So it will be?
Yes.
Well, all right, any other changes? If not, entertain a motion.
I'll move.
All right,
Seconded.
We've got a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of February 18th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
No, abstain.
Oh, okay, 4-0-1 with Pat abstaining. Superintendent's report.
So I'd like to let you know that we've had no water main issues since we last saw each other. We hired a laborer approximately 3 weeks ago. Benny, working out very well. Very happy with his performance so far. We had final interviews for the treatment plant operator last week, and we have a gentleman that's going to start Wednesday, and then we have a pump station operator that's going to start a week from today rather. So we'll be up to full staff. Distribution maintenance continues to go on. Trench work and valves that we have found to be in need of repair during the breaks that we had, so on and so forth, are being fixed as we speak. We're working to improve our discharge permit in the Willis plant. That's ongoing. The residual removal, as well as the curtain that we have in that lagoon. We're watching that. And we're looking to retrofit the other lagoon as time allows after the residuals are removed and shipped off site. Rehabilitation and cleaning, Washington number 6 needed a new pump and a new column, and that's going to be installed on Wednesday. The Delaney filter vessel rehabilitation, the sandblast and the painting that we were speaking of, that we went out on for a bid. It's went out on combis. The bid's been awarded. The contract is going to start on Wednesday for that. SCADA upgrades. The final language for the RFP is in the final stages. Same with the VFD RFP. The Washington booster station generator. The gas service was just installed on Friday, and the engineer and the company will be back on Friday to test it. And I believe we'll have all the staff come in, and we'll go through it on Monday for everybody to do, for everyone to work on. We received our renewal and the order to complete, and we'll talk about that later on in the meeting. Contractor for Weston & Sampson is continuing to televise lines and cleaning mains for the II program. And the sewer pump rehab work, we just had Weston & Sampson come out last week. We had a site walk for the Chandler and the Leonard Road, and I just got an email late Friday afternoon that both wet wells, the piping both on the suction and the discharge side, have corroded a lot. So there's going to be more intensive work to be done, and we're going to meet with the engineer about that later on.
We have
I called
funds
you
for
about-
that?
I'll get you that.
Funds for the pump station, since there's more than what we expected?
We should be all set.
Okay. Good, Pat.
I called you about, didn't call you, I contact you about the chlorine
Chlorine.
in the water.
Okay.
I tasted it.
I don't think you talked to me about it.
I said, okay,
Might have been Scott?
no.
Okay. I didn't
And,
see Petra, I'm sorry.
Anyway, I tested it myself. I couldn't have a chlorine test,
Okay.
and it was fine.
Okay.
So it must have been, I don't know why it does that. It's not like this water had been running all day, so it's not something that was building up. But it was,
I don't know what happens when you're
Sometimes at various times.
I took the test, the dip test there, and
Yeah, if
it
you,
was fine.
if you have an issue like that again, if you find that you have, if you feel it's high, just give us a call, we can run up.
Well,
and do
this
a
has been
quick
tasted. I didn't take the test. I took the test afterwards.
Okay.
But I'll try and test it right when we taste it, see if it makes any difference.
I just have a quick follow-up. On Washington 6, that's down. I'm just curious, you said work's happening on Wednesday. Do you know when it'll be back up and running?
Well, they'll probably need a day or two to fasten everything together. Then we have to, then they have to test it, and then we have to chlorinate it. And
Okay.
it'll be placed back into service.
In the
after
coming
that.
weeks?
Yes.
This week, next week? Okay. Okay, good.
Much before the good weather.
The
comes.
spring and
Yes.
whatnot. One more follow-up. Just obviously everybody's watching the news. I was just curious if the water department has an emergency plan in place for, in the case of extreme absenteeism.
We can run pretty much the plants through the SCADA system and such. So
Really?
Yes. So I don't envision it being a super big issue. I'm hoping that not all the staff goes down at once. That would be
Obviously,
catastrophic,
yeah.
obviously, but we still have the means to be able to run the plants and such.
And that's out of
through
town
SCADA.
hall, or
It can be done through our phone and remote hookup. On
you can run the department through your phone?
Yes.
That's good to know.
I've seen Scott with his phone showing the,
It's not the ideal way to do it.
yeah.
No, I imagine
we
not.
don't. We don't
But we
encourage
will
that.
have water.
The operators.
We
can't
will
do
have
that.
water is the
We
key
don't-
question.
We don't encourage that. I
Yeah.
believe Rick has the ability, Scott has the ability, and I have a remote access ability as
I
well.
gotcha. Okay. Good to know. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All right. If someone wants to tell, thought I saw Phil out there. Yeah, if they want to come in for their 7:15.
7:15, let's fly through the stuff.
Oh, it's 7:15.
All right. Well, okay, let's go to, what is this called here? Comment requests. First one is from the Conservation Commission. This one is,
Route 180 construction project.
yeah,
You still talking about that? No, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Huh?
Next
It's gonna
year.
happen. It's really gonna happen this time? My God. How many years has that been in the works?
and I think the,
1976.
We're trying to.
Yeah.
Phil and the staff are trying to stay ahead of everything, so we're trying to make sure that all the gate valves, water services, so on and so forth, anything that's going to be in that area, we've already located.
Conservation notice of intent, I really don't
Yeah.
think you need to call that.
all right, let's move on.
Better noted.
Comment request number 2, this is the planning board. And I just had a question. I didn't see any water concerns listed. This is from the town engineer. I don't know what that means.
Kyle had mentioned that this is going to be back in front of them because I guess it's going to be a shared drive, and it's still a bit away.
So is the plans what we're looking at, are they of any value, or are they going to be changed?
I believe that that's subject to be changed.
Where is Starlight? Is that the one up near Bubbling Brook?
Yes.
Yeah, Apple Tree Lane, so 109 runs along here.
On this map, I think, would that be 109 up here or down here?
Crossroads, yeah. Because
Where is
this is this road right here,
That goes up
and
to
this is 109 because Apple Tree Lane comes out.
Oh,
So
that's right.
Medfield's over here,
Lois Drive, yeah.
Dover's over here. Anything you wanted to,
No, the gasoline, the only thing I think about is, there's still gasoline in that area?
I'm not sure if there's still gasoline in the ground or not. I wouldn't think so after all these years.
I think pretty much everybody's on public water service now, not private, correct? Pretty much.
I'm interested in the stormwater runoff a little bit. It seemed like I've read somewhere that there was going to be some infiltration basins, so it's not going to run into a stream or a pond. I think it says right now the way it currently runs into the wetlands. And are they going to change that, or only for the new the new stormwater runoff? I guess that'd be my question, if anyone
Are
knows.
they gonna change it for this particular one, or?
So,
what?
there's gonna be, it says that it includes additional stormwater management systems that will mitigate existing and proposed impervious surfaces, and that's a little vague to me, but I just, seems to me like it's gonna infiltrate right back into the ground as a direct
Yeah,
recharge.
I'm not sure what they have on there.
I can
Is
see
that
one
indicated?
here, basin number 1, it's in the middle of nowhere.
And that's a direct recharge?
It's 100 feet from our drinking water, it says our drinking water well, it's not ours.
No.
Right.
We have a well way out there?
Yeah, well,
No.
Oh,
That's a test well.
Starlight.
not for us it isn't.
I mean,
It's a private well, is that?
It's gotta be, it's not ours.
Well, I know it's not
It also
ours.
belongs to the town of Medfield.
Didn't they drill a whole bunch
Do you want me to
of
have
test
Landis? I mean,
Yeah, I'm curious about that. That's something I'm interested in.
So,
thank
the other thing about this is that it was originally proposed as a common driveway,
Mm-hmm.
and then they looked into it. The regulations have been changed in the zoning book, which no one can find out. It never went through town meeting, but they were changing the book, so then he went to a subdivision, but now he's going back to a common driveway of 18 feet instead of the 26 feet, so that must be some...
Yeah, I don't know, I know. Carl can give you all
Because it would
the
affect the
answers.
utilities.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is the
In
wetlands,
the
I mean,
road.
our water management permit, I think a best practice is to not divert stormwater to a stream, to actually recharge it directly, from what I was reading. And so the more we, and they have a recommendation that we disconnect stream discharges and try to infiltrate it directly.
Yep.
So every opportunity we can find to do that, I think would be a good one. And they might be doing that here, it wasn't clear to me.
We can clear it up for you.
All right, thanks.
Okay. That was being close enough to 7:15, Mr. Mackey, if you want to start.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Bill Mackey, 1256 Washington Street, Washington, Northern Massachusetts. Getting the wrong state here. Council forward on behalf of Evolve by Nature. With me is Ray Johnson, licensed site professional, and we have Greg Altman, the CEO and co-founder of the company, Rebecca Alexander, and Melissa Wainwright, also with the company. And so Rebecca doesn't shoot me, she is also the president and COO and co-founder. Need to make sure I give proper credit where credit is due.
Okay.
So basically why we're here is to talk about the use of lithium bromide by Evolve by Nature. It's a chemical that doesn't nicely fit into a variety of regulatory schemes within Walpole. The fire department gets involved for obvious reasons. Board of Health wants to know it exists. It doesn't really apply under section 12, I keep wanting to call it section 10 of the zoning bylaw. But it absolutely does fall under both MWRA and your board's jurisdiction due to the way it's being used and ultimately discharged. So we talked with Rick Madsen, I want to say a couple of weeks ago, go over this, and I'll let Rick speak for himself, but I wouldn't be here if he thought there was a huge problem. We'd be back at the drawing board. So I believe what we have is a use that's both good for the town, appropriate, and subject to obvious regulation by yourselves and MWRA permissible within the town of Walpole. So with that, I'd like to have Greg come up and give you a brief overview of the company and what they're doing. And then we have Ray Johnson here again to answer any technical questions about the lithium bromide. But effectively what we would like to get from the board by the time we leave here is your blessing to work with Rick to do the appropriate permitting.
Okay,
That's where we stand.
all right.
So before we begin on the
Thank you.
presentation, what I'd like to do is just take a minute, introduce myself,
Oh, thank you.
and give you a sense of why Evolve by Nature is even here. So by training, I'm a chemist and a PhD in biotechnology engineering. Rebecca is a mechanical engineer, so she spins the wrenches. and I do the creative chemical things. And what you have right now is a company that was formed in 2013 with the sole purpose to create ultra clean skincare for men and women going through chemotherapy. And we, Beck and I, have been using silk biomaterials inside the human body for somewhere around 20 years. Evolved by Nature is a green chemicals company where we are now unlocking the protein that is found inside the silk fiber, and we're using it as a replacement for synthetic chemicals. And lithium bromide is a tool that we use. And so to be really clear, lithium bromide is a chemical. Many things that surround us are, but lithium bromide is actually a salt. And it's a salt in near identical composition to basically table salt, sodium chloride. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. So I wanted to just take a very quick 2 minutes, introduce you to the company, why we're here and what we're doing. So in terms of the first slide that you have in front of you, the reality is when we started in skincare, we started to realize that the clothing we're wearing also contains dangerous chemicals that are undisclosed to the public. And we are trying again to use silk in liquid form to replace many of those chemicals. What we really do is we create healthier chemistry between people and the materials we come in contact with, and those materials and the environment. We care very much about public health. We view ourselves as a public health company, and we are primarily right now focused on removing many of the hidden chemicals and petrochemicals, not only in the clothing that we use, but in the packaging that surrounds our food, as well as all the personal care products that men and women put on their bodies every single day. And we think silk is a clue to how to solve that problem. There is a slide in here around the trees. What most people don't know is the 80,000 plus chemicals in production today. Almost all of them come from either crude oil, coal tar, or fracked gas. And we actually, on the next slide, can look at the silk cocoon as a replacement to basically crude oil. Inside that silk protein, there are regions that you could think of like Teflon, and there are regions that you could think of like polyurethane. So it's incredibly diverse. What you should know on the next to last slide that has the leaf on the left is that the production of silk is actually an agricultural crop. So we grow mulberry leaves around the world. It pulls CO2 out of the atmosphere. The silkworm eats those mulberry leaves and literally spins cocoons. The mulberry leaves cannot contain pesticides because if they do, the silkworm will not eat it. So you have an entirely organic process. What's really exciting is that if you turn to the next slide, which is the last slide in the presentation, is you have a system here where we can actually purchase organic, cruelty-free cocoons from around the world: Japan, China, South America, Kenya, Europe, Eastern Europe. And it literally can help us avert what we consider to be a public health disaster. 98% of us sitting in this room right now have the chemicals that are found on your jackets in almost every organ system in the human body and in your bodies today. And they get passed on to our newborns through the umbilical cord. So what we do and why we like silk so much is you can take in that cocoon, you literally can wash it in hot water and a salt, sodium carbonate, the same salt you would find in ivory stone. You now have pure silk fiber, and what's really interesting is if you put that pure silk fiber in table salt, the salt itself is actually a little too big and it can't get in and disrupt the bonds that hold the individual silk proteins together. If you go one step down on the periodic table, you find lithium bromide, the same kind of salt. It's an ionic composition. Now that's small enough to get in between those individual silk proteins, and the silk fiber will literally dissolve in water. We then remove the lithium bromide through filtration, very similar to dialysis, and you're left with pure silk protein in water, and you're left as our product, lithium bromide in water. We are very excited about the facility in Walpole. We actually will be investing in the capital equipment to produce enough silk that we could start to treat hundreds of millions of yards of fabric and get rid of a ton of toxic chemistry out there. Yes?
Where is this facility?
It's Walpole Park South. It's number 9, so if you were coming in from Route 1 towards Pine Street, basically right at the bend. It's that building there, it's a little bit back from the one on either side.
And you haven't started production yet, is that correct? Or
So
you-
we are in full production
You
in
are.
Medford, Massachusetts.
I gotcha, okay.
That is where our first operating plant is, and there we can produce enough silk to coat around 10 million yards of fabric. And we currently produce skincare, sold under a brand called Silk Therapeutics.
Yeah.
That contains the product that we're talking about.
Can you give me an idea how much lithium bromide we're talking about? Is it about a 55-gallon drum? Is that how they come
So
in?
it's bought as a solid salt.
Okay.
In a pail, and then Melissa, our head of operations, can give you projections.
Yeah, in the beginning, when we start up in Walpole, the maximum that we would have on site at any time would probably be around 2,000 to 3,000 kilograms. At max production, when we're in full scale, we'll probably be at max at 10,000 kilograms.
And when that's delivered, so it's not delivered in a liquid form, it's a solid
It's
form.
in powder,
And
yeah.
do you have a loading dock in Walpole Park
Yes,
South?
yep, it's a loading dock, it'll be, it's a warehouse with a separate wall, it has controlled access to that, so
Oh.
only authorized people can get into that. Because it is a salt, it is sensitive to water, so even though the adherent packaging, it already has some plastic bags inside, and then it has a container outside, so it's very secure at that point. When we turn it into a solution, it'll be in an area that'll have a berm that will contain at least 120% of the max volume.
Do you have MWRA in Medford?
Yes.
You do? And they've approved this then,
Yes.
in the past? Okay.
Rick, are you familiar with this stuff?
Just the information I got from Phil and Ray.
I mean, is it dangerous?
I'm not familiar with it, so.
I wouldn't be overly concerned about storing it up there. Again, with any chemical, it's all about how it's stored.
Yeah, I know that,
How
but
it's
it's right in
used.
our watershed, too.
Well, Ray, maybe Ray can enlighten us as to what the potential adverse effects would be if it were to escape the building. It's a relatively benign product, and I really don't see an
I
issue.
don't know anything about it, that's why I'm asking.
First of all, can you talk about the percent solution? It's what, 1%?
Sure, we measure it in molarity. By the time we're done diluting it, it's a very dilute concentration. The reality is it is a salt, so at a very high concentration, much like a table salt, it would irritate your skin if you were to get in physical contact with it. The other things I can tell you is that to a certain extent, all water has lithium ions and bromide ions in it. So from that perspective, you know, it's not what we consider to be a hazardous substance. So I'm not sure that there's anything else I can.
Is some of this gonna get back in our sewer system, or?
Yes, it'd be
Yeah.
discharged.
It's going to be discharged into the sewer and completely, yeah.
Yes.
It's already discharged in Medford under an MWRA permit to the sewer system.
They would be required to get the same permit from the MWRA to discharge in Walpole.
The only reason I'm asking, I think it's, our area there is a little more critical than maybe Medford's is. You're right in our aquifer.
Right, which is why it's a good thing that it's going to the sewer.
So, my name's Ray Johnson, I'm with Tetra Tech, 100 Nickerson Road in Marlboro, and I have the safety data sheet here for lithium bromide, and basically, as Greg indicated, there's a category 1 health hazard, which is the least hazardous, and that's basically if you come in direct contact with the lithium bromide powder, it could cause skin irritation. So if you work in the facility, you put your hand in the bucket of the powder, it could cause a rash on your skin, just like many other things you would use. You know, if you mix cement, if you use your hands to mix cement, you can get a rash from that. It is not carcinogenic. It doesn't bioaccumulate. It's not toxic to aquatic organisms. Basically, the only way in which a human would have an adverse effect would be, again, if you got it on your skin, you'd get a rash. And the other thing would be if you actually ate the liquid bromide, or the lithium bromide powder. Nobody's gonna do that.
Don't do that.
So you're not gonna eat pure lithium bromide, that's, you know, and again, just like just about anything else. But other than that, there's no hazard associated with it.
I had a follow-up, okay. I had a follow-up, you all set?
Yeah, I think I'm all set for now.
Just when you mix it, what quantity do you store the mixed solution in?
The max that we would have is 750 liters, which is mostly water, so
Mhm.
it is diluted at that point.
It's the solid form is mixed with the water to
Mhm.
create. You said what percent?
It depends on the concentration, so it'll start at what we would call it 9 molar. I'm not sure how to convert that into percent, but it's a fairly low percent, and then it gets diluted from that to like 1 to even 200, much more than that.
750 liters doesn't sound like a lot. What's 750 liters? Can you put that in another measurement for me?
Is it two?
It's 3.8, right, so about 200, 250 gallons.
That's helpful. Thank you.
What I was gonna say in terms of the liquid form, just so you know, one of the investments we'll be making over time in this facility is to actually recycle the salt in liquid form. It's one of our most expensive ingredients, and there's a carbon tax to shipping it here that we wanna reduce as well, so that's how we're.
I guess just to follow up, so if there was a leak, the fully contained room would have the ability to contain the entirety of 750 liters?
At more than that, actually, it's
Okay.
gonna be 120%.
Okay.
120%.
Rick, don't we have the authority to set the quantity up there of this stuff?
I believe so.
There is
Who does?
certain hazardous chemicals that would be higher than household limits, and they have to, I believe you got a special permit otherwise.
Special permit for anything
Greater than,
greater than
uh,
household.
yeah.
Right, and just, again, like I said, this one doesn't fit nicely in there. We talked to the zoning enforcement officer, we looked at what those chemicals are, and it's very unclear that this would even be inclusive under that provision of the way the zoning bylaw is written for what is actually hazardous. Because again, Ray has pulled out the MSDS, we've gone over with Board of Health, Fire, Rick, and Mike Yanovich is in his capacity as zoning enforcement officer. It's not technically hazardous in that route, but it's not something that we can say doesn't pose any threat either, which is why you need a permit for both the MWRA and your department right here in Walpole, and I think that's where you have your authority. If it doesn't meet your criteria or whatever they are, and I can't claim to be an expert, then you don't give them the permit, or you
I
condition
assume
that. Or
also
whatever.
that the MWA is concerned that you're putting something into their system that messes up their treatment process, and untreated sewerage goes beyond because
Yes.
you've added something, and I presume that they would. So you have the powder, you mix it with water, you put the cocoons in there, you take, and in the end you have this liquid silt. Is there any problem with that, and what do you do with that? How much of that is? And
Oh, no, you drink it if you want, it's edible. You mix it with other oils to create skincare ingredients. But what we do is we take that silk in water and we will ship it globally to mills and tanneries around the world that are
okay,
looking to replace chemicals.
so you're not doing anything with that was where I was trying to get. Is,
That's right.
Is there something, the next step with this liquid silt that
No,
we should
that-
be concerned with?
That's the exciting thing. You can, I know what you're asking, you can dial in different properties into the silk by just changing the temperature. So basically you could denature it further or less and you get different properties. So the exciting thing about what we're talking about is that is literally the chemistry that could start to replace other petrochemicals.
Okay.
Are you moving I'm sorry, real quick, last question. Are you moving your entire operation to Walpole from Medford, or are you continuing in both locations?
So we're definitely continuing in both, but Walpole will be our formal production and Medford will move to what we would call a pilot plant.
And we have the ability to expand in Walpole, should you need to in the future?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
That's the whole point.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're quite excited.
Patrick?
Yeah,
Sorry.
how much bromide is in our water now?
I don't have that.
We don't,
I don't have that information right now, Patrick.
It's typically measured in parts per million. Sometimes it's fractions thereof.
I'm just curious if we even have any bromide at all in the water.
I'd say if we do, it'd be negligible.
Gallons per waste is 250
What was the question?
per day. The gallons of waste material put in the sewer. Did you say 250 gallons?
Oh, no, that was, at the point of having a lithium bromide, mixture, so, I'd have to look, I think I can look that up. It'll be a 1% or less concentration at the time. The amount we're disposing, let me look that up quickly. It would be 10,000 liters maximum per day with that 1% solution.
Okay, 10,000 liters per day, 5 days or 7 days a week?
5.
How many cubic feet of water or gallons are you going to use every day?
If it's 10,000 liters, it's
Now,
gonna
what
be
was the-
somewhere around
Well, I wanna know
2,500 or something.
What
Yeah.
they're going to be drawing? How much of the town water are you going to be drawing?
I don't know if
It's that plus a small amount for the other processes,
Yeah.
so
I don't
maybe
know more than-
12,000.
Yeah.
12,000 gallons.
12,000 what?
Liters.
Liters.
To get me liter calculator out.
Can we put that into American?
Around 3,000, 3,500 gallons.
3157.
Thanks.
3157 gallons a day.
So about 425 cubic feet, if you're looking at,
Okay. Where does the other 2,000 liters go?
We have a small upstream process. If you remember, I mentioned that we wash those cocoons that come in from the farm. So we literally have a washing machine that uses hot water and sodium carbonate, which is, again, pretty much the major ingredient in ivory snow. And so that washing machine uses water.
Okay, but no bromide in
No,
that,
no,
that
no.
process? Okay. Let's see.
well, he's
How,
thinking,
I just checked the last 5 years of Walpole, the reports, and I don't see any indication of bromide.
okay, no bromide. 3,000 gallons a day.
That's why,
You're not regulated.
Yeah, we don't test for it.
we're not required, we don't.
Yeah, no, I-
To either one of you, 3,000 gallons a day, is that extraordinary? Is that peanuts? Is that, what is that?
That's peanuts, yeah.
Okay. All right, so there's no problem with the water. Our water permit that we're going to be getting,
It's
that
not
we'll
gonna
talk about
affect it.
later,
Right, it won't affect that.
it should affect that.
It won't have much effect on that. Gotcha.
Okay, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
okay.
It's 3 minutes of pumping.
John?
I'm curious about, you have the little icons on the map that show like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and from China. What is that, the source of where the cocoons come from?
Exactly. Yes.
And so, from the industry point of view, you're like a chemical company.
That's right.
You whatever, create, process, and
Yes.
ship chemicals. And there's a lot of tonnage of cocoons from China, I guess, that come in. How do they come in? By truck?
Yes, so they're basically dry freight. They could come in by container. They could come in air freight as well because they don't weigh very much. So basically, the cocoon itself, in terms of what we process, is actually the waste product of the textile industry. So cocoons that are not of high enough quality to go into yarn manufacturing get thrown out. They're literally trash. And so we purchase those cocoons because all we care about is the mass of silk because we're unlocking it. We're not trying to make threads. So we basically take a waste product that is really good for the environment and we try to replace chemicals. We are definitely a chemical company. Just our chemical happens to be safe for humans.
Because when you say 571 metric tons, it sounds like a lot. 150 2,000 metric tons sounds like a lot too. What?
It's what we're trying to articulate in this slide is that what most people don't know is that compared to crude oil, fracked gas, and obviously even the events that happened today with Saudi Arabia flooding the market, how can actually silk compete with some of these other feedstocks? And what we're trying to articulate is that what most people don't know is that silk is a phenomenal feedstock. We used to make it in Pawtucket in the late 1800s. We tried to bring silk throughout the U.S. and we see it as an agri-crop that can come back to the U.S. So we're just trying to articulate that there's a tremendous amount of this material globally, which gives us reason to believe that we can compete with some of these synthetic chemical companies.
So the things you said about protective things for cancer patients and for you don't do any of those products.
Oh no, we do. We do. That's how we started. So there's a brand called.
But not here?
We do that in Medford. We do it in Medford right now. So it's basically, if you look at the environmental working group, it was ranked the safest skincare formulas on the market out of like 70,000 different products. So what most people don't know, when you take that pump of hand lotion and whatnot, there's usually chemicals you can't read on the ingredient list, and then there's even more chemicals hidden in those ingredients. And so if you look at our skincare, we've taken like the ingredient list from 90 down to like 4 or 5. And our products used to be sold at the Dana-Farber Friends store, but now we've just decided to give them away for free to groups that support men and women going through chemotherapy.
Cool.
So.
Bernie, you got a question?
Yeah, just how many will be employed when you're in full operation?
Melissa could give you the numbers, but
Yeah.
it's looking exciting.
When we're at full maximum capacity, it'll probably be around 20 to 30 people.
Awesome.
I got another question.
Beckler?
Yeah, they keep coming up here. If you're taking Chinese cocoons, right?
Well, right now, just for the record, we're taking Japanese cocoons, and we'll wait for the
Okay.
virus.
The
Yes,
question is,
yes, please go
the
ahead.
question is, it works both ways.
Yes.
You're taking Japanese cocoons.
Yes.
And you're bringing them to the United States.
Yes.
And then you're sending it back to Japan or China.
Yes.
Why aren't they doing it there?
Because in literally the 5,000-year history of humans coming in contact with silk, they haven't figured out what Beck figured out, which is if you create a highly controlled process and you monitor the temperature of lithium bromide and you monitor that wash cycle that I talked about, you can actually start to dial in and extract exact sequences from that silk protein.
So it's a patented process?
It's a patented process.
Okay.
And yes.
Right, and you're talking about bromide. There's got to be other waste products also.
In all fairness, I'll give you the full list. Every once in a while, there might be a few worm legs still attached to the inside of the cocoon. Every once in a while, there'll be some dried up mulberry leaves that we will filter out. But literally, our major waste is water, lithium bromide, and energy, heat. And the key to our success is recycling all 3 of those.
Okay, there's nothing else there's no material you need to get rid of, hard material, it's all liquid, or is there solid material?
I think we do use a base, like a bleach. We'll use a bleach to wash the equipment. I'm not sure if
Chlorine
it's exactly
bleach?
a bleach. I think we'll use a variety of different cleaning agents, very standard, clean in place reagents to clean out the line every once in a while. But that's just from a cleaning perspective, not from a process perspective.
They would be household quantities, as mentioned in our
Yeah.
bylaw.
Or there'll be a special permit involved.
Okay.
And we'll have a list of those cleaning
Of
agents.
course. Of course.
Did you pick Walpole because of the quality of the water or anything, or was there some reason you wound up here?
Well,
A lot of it was location. It's a great location. It's highway access, and it was a great building that we found, and all those kind of reasons. So we were looking at lots of different towns, and this one just came up to be the best.
Of the stuff you ship out, most of it's containers though, chemical containers, it's not consumer product.
that is correct. It'll be literally silk protein and water. in a bottle. And it, again, edible, safe for human contact. We have our own MSDS for silk protein. As I mentioned, the same silk protein that we're making, we're also supporting other companies, and they're making medical products where that protein is injected into human skin. So our final product is incredibly safe.
Rick, any,
No.
anyone else have any questions?
Well, I was just gonna ask,
Any
so with
specifics?
respect to the question about why they don't do this in China, in addition to not having the technology, is that because they're actually using the higher quality, if you will, cocoons to actually make the?
No, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that our process and patents will be copied as soon as we put manufacturing overseas. And so the Walpole facility, just so you know, is planned to be our global manufacturing site. We plan to ship silk concentrate from Walpole around the world, so that way we can avoid putting manufacturing out there. Once the silk protein is in water, it's nearly impossible to reverse engineer.
No, cool.
So that's it gives us kind of some US protection, to be honest with you.
Nice.
Or just don't get Huawei communications equipment.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? And what you're looking for is an okay from the board to continue discussions with Rick. And then Rick, you'd come back and recommend that we send a...
Yeah, I think I think the important thing is probably the authorization to execute the sewer discharge.
All right.
And, but it's 1% bromide, right? 1%,
It'll be...
the discharge.
It'll be 1% lithium bromide, yes.
Okay.
So you'll have both ions, just as if you were to dissolve table salt.
It needs to meet the MWRA criteria.
I was just thinking about, they're having some problems with other chemicals. So it'd be interesting what they say.
I think as Greg said earlier, it's a lot like sodium chloride, a lot like table salt or salt. It's a very benign compound. When it's, if you take sodium chloride, if you have elemental sodium, it's hazardous. Obviously, if you have chlorine in certain forms, it's hazardous. You put it together into the sodium chloride molecule, and it's, you eat it. Right. So it's kind of the same thing here with the lithium bromide.
I'll make a motion that we authorize Rick to submit to the MWA authorization to dispose this chemical into the MWA sewer.
Second.
One other-
Okay, to discussion, John?
Yeah, I think the Board of Health is the one that developed the list for the building inspector for Walpole Park South, that made a determination of what disclosures have to be and what amounts and what approvals there are. So I don't think we're the sole
You aren't.
approver. The Board of Health may be more critical to, getting.
But in terms of MWRA, the health department has nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
So we're
no,
just-
I'm just pointing that out.
We actually started with the health director, because to your point, you're not the only piece. And this is, I think, again, we're hitting pretty much every department in Walpole, because it's not one size fits all. You have one set of concerns, Board of Health has a different set of concerns, Fire Department has a third set of concerns, through zoning, there's another set of concerns. So to get the business totally permitted, it's not, once you give Rick the okay, we're done, but I can't get anywhere without your okay as well, because we need to know that we can properly use the sewer system.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second.
Make the second.
Glenn did. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0-2.
Welcome to Walpole.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, comment request number 3. This is the Diamond Hills Estate, which is a 40B. On page 9, they're requesting waivers for the let's see, for our fees. Yeah. Yeah. So Oh, I'm looking at 7, no wonder, yeah. So I would make a motion that we send to the ZBA that we are opposed to waiving the fees.
Any and all.
Yes, the water connection, entrance fee, the sewer connection fee, the fire sprinkler service line fee, and the I&I fee. So make that motion. Is there a second?
that.
Mr. Spillane is seconding it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
Is this an overlay resource protection district? Do we
No.
know? It's not?
In Patrick's neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay. Correspondence number 1 is the spring annual town meeting warrant. We have Articles 7, 8, 9, 18, and I think that we should make comments to the Finance Committee on Article 25. Article 7 is the one to supplement with the water retained earnings to meet our revenue needs for the water. As you know, our revenue is falling short. And now, I did speak to Jim. I was out for a walk, and he said, Bernie, you'd have this information for us. Yeah?
I gave each
All
and
right.
every one of you a copy, Mr. Chairman.
This is the approach that we have taken to address our shortfall, is to use water retained earnings, and we will firm the number as we get closer to town meeting. But for right now, it looks like that between 400 and 500,000 from the water enterprise retained earnings fund will cover it.
Have we taken a vote on all these articles? This
We
commission?
they want us to take it so they can go to the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen and say, yes, we have agreed. I know we've agreed on some of them already, but we'll
It should
formalize it
reaffirm
right
today.
now.
The number is a moving target, though, the 400 to 500?
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll meet again in 2 weeks and see where we're at, or when do we need to make that determination?
I mean, right
For
before.
town meeting,
town
which is in May.
We
Yeah.
have to vote
I
on
asked
that
Jim-
here, or we can vote on a moving target number?
I asked Jim that you
You just need to
don't,
vote on the language.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't need to have the hard number until close to town meeting.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we approve Article 7. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
All right. I think that's 4-0-1. Article 8 is the water budget. This is the standard one. Anyone who's been familiar with town meeting, the municipal budget, the water budget, and the sewer budget. I have a question. Is that I had seen earlier that our budget had been like, for this current fiscal year, was like $5.3 million, and I think it was a little bit less this year, but not down to 4.6 million. I'm kind of surprised on
Doesn't
that.
include indirect costs.
It does or does not include?
Does
not.
not. That number you have there,
Okay,
that's always how they voted. They never vote at town meeting, they never vote the indirect costs.
okay,
Because it's like a double jeopardy type thing.
all right. In the past, we have, with the exception of capital items, which we have decided to put on or not, we've basically accepted the recommendation of the department for what they need for both the water department, to run the water department, to run the sewer department. So I will make a motion that we approve Article 8.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Who was the second, John?
John, I have to.
5-0-0. Article 9, same thing, only this is the budget that'll run the sewer department. Any questions on that? I'll make a motion that we approve Article 9. Is there a second?
Second.
Again, John Hasseniger. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, 5-0-0. Article 18 is the grant which we have voted before. This is for that asset management program where you have to appropriate the money up front, but there is a grant that will return $42,000 once we complete it. We will update our asset management information on our our system map, and then we will be able to come up with a directional flushing
Unidirectional
program,
flushing.
unidirectional.
Can I
Please,
talk
yes.
to this?
Go ahead. John.
Whenever they give us money, there's always something they want from us. What do they want from us this time?
We're spending.
What do we have, what hoops do we have to go through to get $40,000?
I'll let the proponent speak to that.
So, Patrick, we're gonna get $42,000 in a grant from the Clean Water Trust, the DEP.
Yes, and
We are going to have to, we're gonna be responsible for $28,000. Of that, $14,000 is in-kind services, which I have laid out right here, if you'd like to take a look at the table.
no, I don't wanna see that, I wanna know
Okay.
what,
We are responsible for $14,000 cash.
yeah, and
That's-
what else?
that will, be our
Because they gave us
contribution.
40,000,
42,000, yes.
42,000.
Yes.
What strictures or?
We are
what-
gonna
what
get
are
a-
the- What demands are they gonna put on us? Or is this completely free and clear?
Free and clear, there will be no demands on us at all.
No things that we have to?
No, sir.
On Sundays,
No,
If you-
not on Friday nights or Thursday evenings or Wednesday
If you
afternoons.
look at our system map, which shows where all the water mains are, and it tells you what the size of those water mains, what you don't know is where are the hydrants, where are the gate valves, that sort of thing. So this will
Which is-
identify
which is
where
very
those are.
strange.
Once we get that, then Wright Pierce will say,
Who said we don't know where the hydrants and valves are?
do you know where they all are, Rick?
We do,
I want to know what.
pretty much all of them.
Pretty much. There you go. There's the key.
So if I don't know where those other ones are, where would they be?
We'll find out.
Pine Street discussion the other day.
Yes, we will find out. Anyways, and then
How are you gonna find out?
and I'm curious, how are they
I
gonna find
asked the
out?
same question, but I did get an answer I felt was reasonable.
How are they gonna find all the valves and?
They're not. We're gonna have guys go out there with GPS equipment, find the valves that we know where they are, and paint them.
And some of them, they may wander out and say, hey,
Don't you have
if you
field
don't, we
books?
don't know about it, we'll probably find some that we weren't aware of,
It's gonna
because
get
somebody didn't
computerized.
mark it on a piece of
The only way
paper.
you'll find them is if you get into flushing
Right.
and hydraulics change dramatically.
Then you know that you possibly have something that you haven't denoted.
And then you'll find it and you'll update your map.
Have we ever done a pedometer survey?
Yes.
And
And what?
do we see the flows then, right?
Yes.
When we turn off the different valves?
Yes.
Don't we know all this information?
Yeah, but I'm not asking for that information, Patrick. That's.
So what you're gonna get is $42,000. You can spend 28, 14 of which is our labor.
Right.
So you basically gonna spend $14,000 of your own cash to get a $70,000 project done.
Which will.
Will-
Which.
Which,
At the end of the day, Patrick, using the hydraulic model that Wright Pierce, that you've already paid for, that Wright Pierce has already developed for you, they will take the whole entire town, break it up into the different pressure zones that we have, and out of the pressure zones that we have, they'll break it up into quadrants, and they will give us a better application of how to flush the system and keep the system managed.
will it also tell us where we need valves? To put in new valves?
I don't believe that's what this,
When-
I
in
don't
my-
believe that this program will have that ability.
In my previous life, back about.
We're actually spending $28,000.
$14,000 cash, $14,000 in labor.
Using our existing workforce.
The end result, the unidirectional flushing program is a good thing.
Yes.
That's a very good thing.
Are they gonna look at the historical records? Because,
Yes,
like I was starting to say,
Are
when
they
I
gonna
was,
look at what?
historical records. Yes, so that's.
we found
What's this gonna tell us?
valves that were covered over with
It's gonna help
paper
us flush
We're
the
going to
system.
that
know
we didn't know
exactly
ever existed,
where
But
hydrants
if you look
and-
back far
and,
enough,
gate valves.
right?
And
You
we
would
will
sign
get a
indications that they had stuck one in.
We don't know
unidirectional
now.
flushing.
How are they
Had been
gonna
covered
tell
over
us
for
where they
30
are?
years.
We know that there's
And
one in front of my house.
Also,
We don't know the
pedometer
GPS.
This
survey,
goes with a lot of
we
my
found
He
that
doesn't know the
we may have
GPS.
This is
needed a
what he
valve
isn't saying.
at certain
Is it
spots.
going to all be on
Is this gonna
GPS or is it
augment
just
that, or is
located
it
on a
gonna
map?
What's it gonna
No,
do?
no, it's
Because
gonna be a
not gonna be
GPS.
GP, that's the problem, is the field books aren't on GPS.
Right.
I would say it would
And
improve that.
you're-
Improve
You
what?
do get a
The-
GPS unit, which we will then own, the town will own, and they will
Was that
have the
the-
GPS
What?
board
Pedometer.
for all those
Pedometer.
items, so
The
that you can,
pedometer.
on one
See,
scale.
that's what you gotta
Easy
explain, if
The
you
other
don't
thing-
FinCom, you gotta explain that.
Well, they already
fix
know
those.
that.
Those are velocities, and that's,
Yeah.
that's pressure and velocity.
Yeah, and the select.
Okay.
So
When you,
what do you want?
I'll make a motion that we vote to approve, is it Article
You
18?
already did it.
We did, but
We
we're,
voted?
we're,
We seconded it, we voted on
yes.
it?
I'll second that, let's take a vote so that we will have a vote on all of the articles. All those in favor say aye.
Oh, what article?
Aye. Well, we're only
That wasn't a
talking
big
18.
project.
I'm
That
saying,
wasn't a big project, it was a complex one.
yes. All those in favor of approving Article 18. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, I
Opposed?
told you.
Abstain?
Abstain.
All right, 4,
John.
0, 1. All
How are you
right,
gonna find these things if we don't know where they are?
Article 25, which is
I'll
not
tell
a
you.
water article, but it's a petition by Mr. Richard Keeler to see if the town will vote to mandate that any and all surplus monies from capital projects be deposited in a single interest-bearing escrow account within 30 days from substantial completion of punch list items or receipt of certificate of occupancy, and that these monies are applied and used for new capital projects before town officials may seek additional taxpayer funding, and if approved, the mandate will immediately go into effect retroactively to include all completed capital projects, including surplus monies, or to do or act anything in relation to. My only thing is that any sewer or water project
Yeah.
shouldn't go to this single interest-bearing escrow account. They should go to the water retained
Enterprise.
earning or sewer retained earnings, as what happens
I
already.
don't, this wouldn't apply to us because, we're not doing taxpayer funding.
It just says,
Enterprise.
all surplus monies from capital projects.
Yeah, we'll make sure they get that message.
Yes. So I'll make a motion that we send to the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen, if they haven't voted on this, that in Article 25, surplus monies from water capital projects should be put into
Except
the,
for,
Exempt.
or exempted.
well, should be put into the water retained earnings, and
Or sewer.
and sewer should be put into the sewer retained earnings.
Seconded.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay.
So did you actually vote the motions?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay. Next item up is our water management to complete. Order to complete.
Yes, sir.
All right. And we've all had a chance to read it. I was surprised
I think
that
we all were.
that they're allowing us to go, if we meet the criteria, to go to 2.9 million gallons per day, as opposed to, we were talking 2.53.
Provided that.
Yes, provided that. That's the key, as I said, the conditions.
Follow their map.
And it seems that, one of them is that the unaccounted for water, we have to be below 10%, and we've been in the 4 to 7 range.
Yeah.
We should not have a problem of meeting that. The one that is a little bit interesting is the 65 gallons per day per capita, and that one we've been above, we've been below, and where it affects us, as I read this, is if we're below that, and maybe if you're right at 65 and below, we can do 2 days a week outside watering. If
Yes.
we're below, it's the previous year, the next year you are limited to 1. And so we will find out the annual statistical report, which should be coming out, that we'll be producing it shortly. It usually comes out and we finish it in March.
It is out.
It is out?
Yes.
Okay.
It's due April
How did
30th.
we make? How did we
Oh, we
do?
didn't finish it
Oh, so it's, we're still preparing
It's
it.
due in April.
Oh, it's due in April, okay.
But just a point of clarification, they're not automatically gonna give you 2.9.
No.
There are hoops you're gonna have to jump through to
Right.
get that. If you want anything above baseline, you gotta jump through the hoops.
Right,
Mitigation
Exactly.
steps?
right.
So, and they give us plenty of recommendations here too.
Right, and I think we're, along those lines, we're in good shape.
We're in very good
Yeah.
shape.
Because we've
Yeah.
done a lot of those things already.
You have.
You know,
And they seem to be giving credit back to 2005.
yeah, it
so
talked about non-essential outdoor watering restrictions, that's our
Metering,
budget there.
price structure,
Rebate
Stormwater
program
recharge.
for high
Yes.
efficiency.
I&I.
As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, you and I met probably 3 days before this came out.
Yeah, yeah, but I had some, they had some of the same recommendations in the 2005 report that you gave me,
Yeah.
Rick, so I had been familiar with some of those, and I mentioned a couple to you.
I mean,
Yes, you
it
did.
seems to me that we've already accomplished
Many of the goals.
many, if not almost all of them. So anyways,
So Wright Pierce is gonna help us to prepare those
Right.
plans, the mitigation and or minimization plans.
so would this, when would this take effect?
We have until May to finish the audit.
All right, so we
Yes.
do it May, we send
Once-
everything back.
Once you go to the complete,
Yeah.
then they have like 60 days or 90 days.
All right,
to
so-
issue the permit.
So roughly in the middle of the summer, we would know,
There's a catch, you're gonna get an appeal to our permit,
okay.
almost guaranteed.
Will this be from the NEPRA
From
folks?
From
Okay.
NEPRA, and they
That's
just,
my guess.
they just contacted me last week.
Okay.
They actually contacted me a day or so before we received this. We were scheduled to meet, myself, Scott, and, and we were gonna have a sit-down, probably, I would imagine, to discuss this, because I have not met Ian. And he called back after he got a copy of this, and he said, well, they would like to review this and give it a few weeks, so he's gonna be back in contact with me. Rick said he wanted to sit in on it as well, and we'll see what NEPRA has to say
I'd like to
about
be
it.
there too.
So I
That's
assume,
fine.
Is
I
it gonna be-
assume
what's
that
his
they
name?
will, they'll
Ian.
have
Ian,
some
yes.
length of time where they have to appeal. If they don't appeal by X date, then it goes into effect, and DEP, based on the appeal, will decide to change it or go with what they've written or anything in between.
So just real quick on the order of things, so you've already sort of made a preliminary case for where Walpole stands as far as like the steps we've taken since 2005?
In terms of mitigation.
Mitigation, or are you
historic.
doing that going
In the
forward?
2010, when we filed the original
Yeah,
permit renewal application,
yes,
it was in 2010, I think.
okay. So going forward through May, what additional, are you just gonna respond to that question and inquiries?
Reiterate what we've done.
Okay, I
There's a
got it.
couple of things we're gonna have to research a little bit,
Yeah,
but for the most part, I could complete the order tomorrow.
okay, cool.
Patrick, you got a question?
Yeah, there's two ways we have two options, option one and option two. Isn't that correct? We have the calendar triggered option, and we have the stream
Stream flow.
flow. Which one would you, I like the stream flow, to tell you the truth. Of course you do.
Positively
I know you
calendar.
did. No, tell me
Yes.
why.
Why?
Because it's easy.
Well, it's not easy, but what it is it gives you the ability, if you need to change things, to notify the public instead of running down reading the stream gauge every day.
Yep,
But that
You could potentially change that thing 6 times
more than that.
in a week
Yep.
with that stream gauge, depending on what you get.
That's
from rain
correct,
and-
that's correct.
We don't have the staff nor the desire to go out and read stream gauges
And-
so somebody can water their
You can-
lawn for one more day a week.
You can get that information on the internet, but the problem, Pat, is how do you tell people, oh, wait a minute, everybody, you can only do it 1 day a week, and then, I
then
looked at
change
the
it.
records, and it
And
could
then
be,
change course.
we get a thunderstorm, and all of a sudden, oh, we've met the right criteria, go to tell everybody, okay, it's
We have
over
3
again.
now,
It's
right.
just
No,
impossible
you
to
have
do.
to look at the information that's being presented to you.
By the time you get
whether it's on
that
the internet.
information, but here's my point, by the time you get that information out there
Well,
to the public,
you type it in
the
the-
stream flow
Could be already
has changed
downstream.
again.
And then you could be,
Okay,
you
this
could have had
is-
five,
Yeah, no, it's
five or
definitely
six
gonna hit a
cases.
moving
Give me a
target.
bunch of things that can
what-
be solved.
Can I just say, in 2004, they had similar conditions, and Rick, you, me, and Michael Boynton went in there. And I had looked at all the information they'd had since it started in October of 1939, up to that point, and I charted, you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off, you're on. It was just, you cannot do it unless somehow you get everybody in town
On Twitter?
committed that they're going to watch those readings. And like I say, they're in there on the internet, but
So
getting
Patrick, what would be the benefit to going with Dreamflow?
Well, that comes to my program, SIP,
SIP.
SIP, which I'll put on the agenda
okay.
for next meeting, okay? And I'll tell you why it's important to use option 2 for my program. My program is a revenue enhancing program. I'm sure that'll be close to your heart, since we're having a little difficulty meeting our budget.
I'd be interested in hearing.
In due course.
In due course.
I'm gonna use everything.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions on the order to complete?
John, John Hasselnigger, just to let you know, I gave you, you would ask me for a breakdown of what we gave TCR, and I provided that for you, and I have that list for anyone else that needs it, but I just want to let you know that that's exactly what we
And that
gave.
was over time.
That was what we gave DCR, and that's what DCR actually used to go forward with this.
Was this the same person though, too? It wasn't a switch of, same woman?
Yes. Marilyn McCormick.
Because sometimes you get different people and they don't pass the messages downstream.
More than sometimes.
Okay. There not being any more questions, if you come up with them later, Bernie and certainly can be.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next one is correspondence number 3. This is regarding the Summer Street 40B project, and the thing that I noted was on page 4, there is a number 22, the water system is not looped. A loop is strongly encouraged. I think we should send back a note to the Director of Community and Economic Development that on page 4, item number 22, that a water system being looped is mandatory.
Yeah,
I agree.
Is any other items that anyone wish
They
to?
haven't come before us yet, have they?
No.
No.
No, they need to do that.
And Carl and I went over the
will.
basic plans. Whenever you get a 40B's plan, the first plan is just basic. It doesn't have a lot of details, so on and so forth. We just let them know that we wanted valves in different locations, just to start.
And not
It's
just
a
one
start.
loop, if we can do more loops, it's better.
If you got somebody here in the audience, maybe Mrs. Milligan wants
That's gonna
Do you want
be-
to say something about?
No, number, you do?
No, continue with the meeting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So I've made a motion. Is there a second to send a note to?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. This is to Ashley Clark, the Director of Community and Economic Development. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
I have a question about this too.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't see any reference to soil quality, and I don't know if that directly is something that correlates to what we do here, but I'm just thinking of runoff, and I think there's been in the past contamination at that site from articles that I've read from many years ago.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
And so I just didn't know if soil testing, I'm just concerned about water runoff and how it might affect recharge and the quality of water in the area.
I saw that there was a meeting of the planning board, and I know that that was brought up.
It was.
Yeah, about the soils, and maybe that there was a lot of wetlands. I know on the other side of the tracks, it was an industrial site. I don't know, was on this side, was there?
No,
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either.
It was the second parcel that they acquired, I think.
there is a lot of wetlands there.
Yeah.
That's important.
And that was
Cedar
brought up
Swamp,
at
right?
the planning board also.
And there's no work to be done on the second parcel at this time, that we know of? The plans that you saw
There was-
didn't include the
Their
second
original
parcel?
thought was the 300, and then they acquired another parcel adjacent to it that I think they wanted to do like another 160 units, and I'm not sure whether they were single, a multi-story, I'm not sure that they even knew, and I think the selectmen had the power to say, no, we're not going to let you amend to do that, so they may come back later at some later time, but.
So, The Summer Street 40B that we actually gave DCR communication with was for 300 rentals and only 300 rental-owned units, 546 bedrooms. So as far as I know, that's what this is laid out for.
John?
I was gonna say, Glenn asked, the back parcel was owned by Bird Machine. The front parcel was the Kosky property, which was not part of it, but there was contamination. And you say they found the people from Bird Machine dumped some things around the property, little places.
They did a lot of cleanup there.
Filling in holes and things like that with whatever. But I don't think on this particular, the 30 acres, I think that was a separate ownership. Yeah, it was the Kosky piece, which is, I think, I don't know, but I think that's what this,
I didn't know if that would be part of any peer review process
because
or...
the other one was integrated, it would be. I mean,
Okay.
if the both pieces were put together, I don't know.
Patrick?
Yeah, but they're
A
on
question
different sides
to
of the
Bernie.
track.
No, on the other
You
side of the
saw
track,
their
there's a-
rough plans
there's a Bird
Yes, on the
Machine
street.
piece in the back,
Um,
and then there's the Kosky piece that was.
Years ago,
There was
we
no
also
meeting.
were in charge of water courses,
No, I know that.
okay, and
There is
drainage
no-
and things like that.
But they said
I remember going
solar
and looking at the way the Naponton River had been changed.
Okay.
Is that reflected in here, or
I did not
anything
see,
about that?
I didn't see anything about how they, direction of river or so
The
on
river
and so
goes through
forth.
their property.
Yes, it does, I believe, yes.
Okay,
It goes
I'm
under-
curious-
Goes underneath Summer Street and it goes, doesn't it go over by, actually, there's a retaining pond, I think Bird made as well.
Well, that's,
in there as well.
that pond
Rock-a-duck.
was, I think, part of the cleanup. that
What is it?
Somebody,
Rock-a-duck pond.
Okay.
Really?
That's on the other side of the railroad tracks, I
Right.
believe, yeah,
Yeah.
so.
okay, and when I talked to, I think it was Roger, who realized that the river course had been changed by that company.
Okay.
Bird Machine had changed the river course for some reason. And I was wondering if they had put it back in its original
I
course, or that.
I
I didn't even know they changed it.
I have no knowledge of that.
I'm just
Patrick.
curious, because we were very interested in that, because they had really changed the whole nature
I
of
can
that.
talk to Roger. See what-
Okay.
Talk to Roger.
Well,
I don't think they changed anything, but
Only other thing that I'd like to suggest is that we, on the topic of water, that we would like to encourage them to minimize their
Irrigation.
irrigation.
Yes, sir.
So that we help us meet our 65 gallons per person per day.
Well, if they can use the river, right?
Well, there's some recommendations in there about low flow toilets and showers.
Right.
Is there additional, are you talking about outside
Outside
irrigation? Oh,
irrigation,
okay.
yeah. So is there a second on that?
Second that, yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
What's that?
Opposed?
Well, I didn't hear that.
This is to minimize outside, or limit outside irrigation. And the idea is that we want to meet our 65 gallons per day per person.
I'm gonna vote no on that.
All right. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstain? I'm going to say that was 401 on
410.
410, right.
Yeah,
John?
comment on,
Well, John-
I just would say to the board, I'm sure you probably know this, but this site had a plan for 29 to 30 homes on it, in the open space plan from the zoning book. The Walpole Selectmen, Town Meeting, and Planning Board took that out of the book before the Koskis could push that plan in. And that allowed this 300 units. The owner could not develop one home per lot, per acre, because the Walpole zoning adulteration that took place by the town meeting. So there's a lot of, you could blame the former owner and the developer, but really, it's our own planning board that keeps making it so that the builders can't do anything but do a 40B, because they can't build what they should be able to build by right.
Okay. On to correspondence number 4, the Abrams Group draft report, which you all got in there.
curious, what do you think?
Some of it was the obvious, that, we were
All right.
using overestimating what we were going to sell. A lot of numbers, which are existing numbers, and a projection for the 2020 numbers, there
I'm getting
seems...
the sense you feel the same way I do about it.
Yeah,
Fell short of the mark.
yeah, throughout the report, there seems to be almost an assumption that we normally use retaining earnings to make up, which I can think of maybe a couple times, but our intent never is to, we intend to set the rates to meet the requirements, and we use retained earnings generally for capital projects that are are small enough that you wouldn't want to spend borrowing.
So based on what you have there in that draft report, are you in a position to make an adjustment, a rate adjustment, or a recommendation for a rate adjustment?
Yes, I can come up and will have as to what I think we can do going forward in our next meeting. One of the things they talk about, the ready-to-serve charge. This is the per billing charge.
Yep.
One thing that, I can understand what they're talking about, okay, but why would it...
What page you on, Bill?
This, they talk about, page 8, yeah, up on the top they are.
Okay.
They are saying, okay, based on the meter size, and it seems on our entrance fee, if you have a larger meter, you get charged more. But once you're in the system, I don't know, like the idea is to cover indirect costs. The cost to issue a bill for $100 is the same to issue a bill for $1,000, the pension costs, all those sort of things. I was just questioning why a meter size would change the per bill.
It's an AWW standard.
Yeah, but I still question why, once you're a customer,
So you're saying
Patrick has a
everybody-
3/4 inch
so
meter, I got a
everybody should be
5/8,
charged-
why are we charged different
Everybody charged the same?
if you were going to go that route?
It's the same reason I would
Let's see.
say why Siemens pays mostly in Tier 4, because they're the biggest user. Even though it's all essential water use for their operation
Right.
of their business, they're still one of the biggest users
Yeah.
in Walpole.
Well,
And so,
the-
they pay, they pay, I don't have the
You're
meter
gonna be
size.
paying like $10,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
Additional.
Why do they pay more? Because they're the biggest user and a heavier weight on the system. I think would be my answer.
The other thing is that I just to look to see what the impact is. What you would end up doing is basically taking the indirect cost, which is like 1.2 million, give or take a little for water, out, and you would replace it by a per bill charge. And they were talking about whether it was a 3/4 inch meter, a 4-inch meter, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
The impact is if you are a low water user, you would increase your bill by 105%. If, on the other hand, if you're a very, very large water user, like Siemens, they would see a 27% decrease potentially or more, because they would pay, right now we spread that 1.2 million based on your flow, not on just dividing up the indirect cost by roughly 8,400 customers. And take a typical water user, their water bill might be in the order of like $59. Well, you're going to reduce the water rate because you're taking the indirect off, and their water bill might be $26, but now you throw on a if they had a 3/4 inch meter, a $37 cost, and so your $50.81 bill goes to $66.81. And if you're looking at Siemens, they may have a
It
100.
sounds as though you're not a proponent of the ready to serve.
Well, can I respond to that?
Yes, you can.
Comment, because I agree with you. It's not a perfect equation. It's going to heavily weight on lower income users and smaller users, and that's unfortunate.
And medium-sized users.
I think we can make up for that by the fact that we have a 4-tiered billing system, which in the lower users aren't ever going to go into those higher tiers. And so we need to raise more revenue, right? So this is one way to guarantee revenue if we do go with the ready to serve, and we can raise more revenue by increasing the top two of the top tiers, which is an AWWA standard as well, to focus increases on top tiers. So that'll mean that Siemens will pay less percentage-wise because their bill's going to go down because they have that ready to serve charge, and we can we can get them, I'm sorry to keep using Siemens as an example, but we can get
I
them.
mean, a very large.
Yeah, we can get them in the 4th tier,
So
where we know they're gonna be.
We
and
can look at that,
few
but I
people
just
won't.
want to make sure that people understand, it's one thing when you say, I've got $1.2 million worth of coverage, of expense that I tie to your usage. You use a lot, you're going to pay a bigger portion of that. If you use a smaller, you're going to pay a smaller one. Now, essentially, you're going to take that 1.2 million, divide it evenly by roughly 8,400 customers, and everybody will, now obviously your meter size, but for the most part, everybody's going to take a portion of it, and if you're a typical user, your bill's going to go up. And Siemens, and that sort of goes against our idea of the inclining block rates, that the less water you use, you pay less, the more you pay, the more water you use, you pay at higher rates. So
What if we did
How is
this?
Siemens' bill going down?
because the
We're gonna-
water rate itself, we're not going to charge it at a,
It's not fully loaded.
yeah, they would be in four
We're
tiers,
gonna have to
but
lower
all
our
the
rates.
tiers, Rick, go down by the same percentage because you're taking out all the indirect.
The rate of the surcharge doesn't raise any additional revenue, it just guarantees that 1.2 million.
Right, it's just how you spread
And then we
the-
lower
Right.
our rates
So
elsewhere.
why wouldn't we basically not use any of those recommendations? Okay, have you seen anything in there that catches your eye?
Well, yes, there are.
Did you see the line where he says, under no circumstances should commercial pay more than residential, less than residential?
Right, and that's one of the things we should do, and that's one of the things
Exactly.
when I'm
Well, that's not,
preparing
aside.
for,
So why wouldn't we have residential rates, whether they're tiered or not,
right.
and have commercial
Rates.
/ industrial rates?
And so you would change to have right now we have a commercial, you're saying split the commercial so there's commercial and industrial as two separate, or keep them
You
as?
could make them separate, or you could make them
Yeah,
one.
well, that's the thing.
Non-residential.
Or non-residential, however you want to.
Yeah, I understand the concept, and there is it makes a certain amount of sense that there is some work that is just to get the bill out, to process the bill, that is not really tied. And you can use the example of, we're going to send everybody 4 bills a year. Doesn't matter the amount, but the process of issuing 8,000 bills 4 times a year, doesn't really matter how much usage. It's, that doesn't matter, and the number is different, that's all. Jody, the accountant, does her thing, doesn't matter how much usage, it's a number, she files whatever paperwork. We have X number of employees, they use human resources, there's certain, there's all sorts of fixed things that can, I'm just saying that, just applying it, you have to be aware of what potentially it's going to do to customers' bills.
Can we just?
So we can work on that, I'm just suggesting.
Yeah, this is a direct
Right.
report.
Yeah.
the-
No, I'm gonna tell you, I'm
This
gonna
is
be
to give
dead
you
set
some
against
sort of
this
direction,
ready to serve
Mr. Chairman.
thing,
Okay, yes,
You wanna call it. We had one bad year.
yes.
It was a really wet year, and now we're panicking, we're gonna change everything around.
John might be right, I mean,
If you leave it alone, it'll probably come right back to where it was.
that's certainly possible.
Yes.
But-
Well, in terms of that, if you look on page 1, the amount of water that's been consumed, which we've been basing it on 88 million, it has been going down. The thing that I've been once every month showing you the pumping, in fact, I displayed earlier today, I got the February, and January and February both are the lowest they've been.
February is 1.82.
It was just, low. So anyways, there was something in here about rates for
Let's
seniors.
start exporting it.
Rates for
And if we,
seniors,
for
yeah.
seniors.
Well,
or
low income, I think it's more to the point,
So
but.
if we wish to do that, there
you
is
wanna
some
wish for.
information, and Glenn, maybe, I think you want to discuss on something later on.
Sure.
The other thing was multi-unit accounts. If you have a condo,
Not just a condo, it's
Oh.
just certain situations of condo.
Yes.
I'm one of those situations, I don't think
Yes.
it's all the same.
anyways, they have suggested that there's a couple of ways of addressing it. That the Munis system has a way to calculate bills on a per unit level. They have gotten, and I also got a list of all the multifamily units in the town, and I think they estimated, did they estimate?
155,000.
Something like, yeah, $155,000 if we were to implement that.
$155,000 that other people have to pick up.
Right.
Yes.
You pull it out of somewhere, it's a balloon. You squeeze it here, it bulges there. The second one was to create separate rate structures for each combination of number of units in a building. And again, I think that is a crazy way to do it.
That's a crazy way to do it. I think,
So,
yeah.
there is something here that we potentially can use, and it's a case of looking to see, all right, how do you, and I think it's possible that you could maybe say that since the condos are residential units, where an apartment, even though they are residential, it's a commercial operation, that maybe you could maybe reduce that 155,000 by only saying they have to be condos as opposed to multi-family units. So I think one of the things that we can look at is see, okay, what exactly is this? Same thing with the low income. What does that do? And, obviously, anytime you're lowering the rate on something, you got to raise it elsewhere to meet our revenue objectives there. And other than that,
Only because I don't understand it, why can't you just have the same residential rate for everybody that's residential? And then commercial for every, why do you need a tier?
well, we do, and that's your problem, is that we're treating you as one
As
one
yeah.
resident, when in
One-
fact
one-
there's six residents.
Exactly.
So, the first item that they identified,
But one of
which
their
is a
proposals
unit,
would give even bills to every unit in the building,
right,
regardless of how many people live in the unit.
right.
One in every unit, that's what I mean.
Well, I mean, you
In
could have,
your case.
Other
in your-
buildings might be different.
there
might
could be
10 and
two
one.
that,
Right, that's why I said if it was a flat residential rate, would it matter? Wouldn't matter if everyone's paying the same water rate.
I mean, we could do a flat rate for just the multi-units,
Just for charge,
which wouldn't be a perfect solution, but it
yeah.
would.
But anyways, this was something that they've given some information, and now it's a question of, okay, how can we fit that into, for our upcoming rate flow? We do have some information, and it is something that the MUNIS system has the capability of doing, which is an important thing, because you can dream up some other system that requires, some mechanism that doesn't exist in the products that we use for billing and all, in which case now you got to get it done, somebody's got to pay for it, and it's not going to, this would be something that could be implemented quicker than some others.
Now you go back to the flat rate.
Yeah. Well, that would be, if you look at our water management thing, one of the conditions is inclining block rate.
Right, that's
So,
the
we're not
direction
going
that, I think
back.
he said 80% of the communities. I
Yeah,
think
something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Inclining block rates.
Is it a condition? I'm sorry.
It was in there, yeah. That
It's a
was,
condition.
it was one of the
It's a
minimization.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
If
why
you're-
she is a problem, because of this inclining block.
It's a
block rate.
recommended mitigation.
Mitigation, right.
Minimization.
Minimization, right.
Not as good as a mitigation.
Patrick?
A couple of things. After I read this thing, and I did read every word,
Ooh, okay.
and I got to tell you, there's lots of data in here, but there's not really any position.
No.
Okay? All right. But this thing here mostly is is data. Data and data and data,
You've
which
actually,
makes it look like a big,
you've already
heavy,
discussed it more than once.
thing that they need to get a lot of money for. All right.
What you have there is what your clerical staff spent numerous hours on.
Exactly.
Right.
That's right. Now, John, cast your mind back to when we were both on many, many, many years ago. Do you remember we had a basic charge? Do you remember that?
I can remember it.
Yes.
Yeah. I
You
think
can
so.
remember that?
Yeah.
We
That's what we
charged
do every
everybody
6
a
months.
basic
It
charge.
was like, and you got
$10
X number of the
$8
first,
and then you pay the overages in the second bill.
right,
Okay. And we get rid of it
right.
because we felt it was unfair for people who use less water than the minimum charge. Because we were going to go into this program where we were going to help people who needed
Some
help.
towns, believe it or not, still do that.
Christ, that was 30 years
And
ago.
that was that's why we cut off the
More than
basic
that.
charge.
Was it more than
So it
that?
wouldn't be
Oh,
a
yeah.
burden on people who couldn't
It's not-
pay and wouldn't use
Ted
more water.
Delaney used to bring candies for us.
All right. Now, we keep not, the obvious answer is that every person who receives water, who has a service, should have a meter. That's the answer to this whole thing.
Okay,
Now, okay, how do you fix that?
okay, yeah, how do you fix that?
I'll tell you how you fix that. I'm
Okay.
glad you asked me. Well, I'll put new construction, that's pretty easy.
All right, okay.
And with existing buildings, there's gonna have to be retrofitted, little by little.
Okay,
And we can do it a bunch of ways. They can retrofit and we can give them a break on their bill,
okay,
or we can give them grants,
okay.
or any other thing we can possibly think of. But we're always gonna go through this whole thing if we don't have people being responsible.
Why can't you just charge these condos a flat rate?
You can, John.
You can.
You can do that
Okay.
too. But that's a whole, what I'm saying is to make sure that we don't have any big problems, everybody should have their own meter. And we'll get points from our masters, from the state. Because now, everybody's responsible, they want responsibility, don't they? Because that way you can see, that's why they want to have monthly billing. You notice that was in there.
You're gonna have an apartment building with 265 meters in the basement?
Absolutely. And you know why you can do that?
Sometimes it's not practical.
You know why you can do, you know why you can do that?
Yes.
Because they're all electronic.
Do they have
Still
any
Still
junior
need to
meter?
take it,
Still
divide
need
it.
spacing to put
Could
them
they
in.
have some little junior meter
That's-
that costs like?
That's all
$20,
electronic, and
$15 or something?
with the way things are going, how
Are
big
they
is
gonna
the
broad-
water
are they
meter
gonna
now?
broadcast to the town hall?
Yeah.
Well, no,
They
that's
use it
another,
as
nine-
you
nine-
send somebody out.
Are there smaller water meters?
Send somebody out
Yeah.
for 10 minutes.
And they're all
They call it a
electronic and you
flat
can read them.
So
So
he's
it doesn't make
one
any difference if you
bill,
have
so you can divide
3
it by
million.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I just,
Instead of
honestly,
using-
Patrick, I don't think it's
That's
practical.
It's not practical.
Right.
Well, you can say it's not practical, but then you're gonna have to dream up some kind of
Yeah, flat rate.
make up,
Condo.
The whole friggin'
you know,
8,000.
algorithm to try and make
Okay.
it fair for everyone.
Any other comments
It's an
on the,
I could
Well,
jump.
I would say that,
Yes.
you know, this is the politically correct, the inclining block, even the city of Boston now is taking parking tickets. They're gonna make it on an affordability basis. The less your ability to pay, the lower the fee for the parking ticket, and the richer you are.
they're gonna figure
You're a
that
pro
out, too.
athlete, it's a $10,000 bill for the same
I just
parking ticket.
W-2s.
So you can take the same app, apply the same thing to Bill's inclining block of water.
Well, I would just point out that if we did the inclining block rate at the same time that we did the ready-to-serve charge, then I feel like it would be more palatable because you'd be doing, lowering the bills for the bottom 80% on the inclining block rate, and then you'd be increasing the bills by adding in the ready-to-serve charge, and so you would almost have like a wash. The fact is, there's a 2-year gap now, and so it's not as palatable. But if you did them at the same time, I feel like you could just argue, well, you're moving in one way and then the
but the
other.
Wayback Machine is broken.
But we did it, and here we are. So we have the inclining block
When do you think
rate.
you'd be in a position to recommend a rate?
I've been working on it already, and I'm hoping to have it for our next meeting so that we can
Bernie's got a
see.
good point. You wanna bring Abrams in and talk to him?
I don't,
I wouldn't either.
I don't either. No,
I mean, I say we pay him and send him on his way.
yes, I agree.
Okay.
I mean, you're right, most of the information, it was readily
That
available
was countless
by
hours
our
by two
staff.
people in the office.
Yeah.
Done.
And
It's
I
all-
think we
it's a
saw
data
what we
thing,
were
yeah.
getting on the very first meeting,
Yeah.
and we were all going, what?
You were just getting data spat back at you
Okay,
that we provided.
The one thing I would say when discussing this, using Siemens is probably a bad example.
no,
Because everybody in town knows that Siemens got a $20 million tax credit.
Yeah,
And
but
so they're getting $1 million off the tax.
I think the only
credit.
reason
So
we
they're
use
not-
them, John, is 'cause they're the
this is
largest water
fourth.
user in town.
You shouldn't worry about Siemens.
I just know they're in the fourth tier. Any
Oh,
example of
yeah,
fourth
what
tier
I
user.
did
yeah.
to figure
Most of their
this-
use is at fourth tier. That's why I asked.
What I did, it was to figure a low water user at 500 cubic feet per billing period, 1,200 cubic feet, which is closer to a typical homeowner, a large water user, and I called that 3,500 cubic feet per user, and there we have a...
These are per quarter bill, per
per
billing
quarter,
period?
right. And then I said, all right, just so you can see what's going to happen with our biggest one.
Yeah.
And the first two were getting increased bills. The others were getting decreased bills. And the more water you use, the decrease got bigger and bigger just because of the way, if you're spreading things by
Even the commercial
using.
establishments you use, were like,
I know, most of the, well, if you look at our tiered structure, the first two are residential because most
Right.
commercial users use less water than residential because they're not taking showers there, they're not doing laundry there.
And they're not.
If they got a
and
break
they're
room and a
not growing-
restroom, that's it.
They're not growing grass either. Right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's go on, policy review number 1. I think that at this point we should schedule a rate hearing to address our I&I. And I think as soon as, I think you have to have a public notice of a rate hearing, 2 weeks. So, Rick, assuming that the board is agreeable, I'll make a motion that we schedule a rate hearing to address our I&I fee schedule. Is there a second?
Second, will that be in 2 weeks? Or?
Well,
I don't think you can do it in 2 weeks, I don't know.
well, I think
Or
you
the
have to advertise,
advertising,
so
yeah,
I
maybe
think
it's
it
on
probably
vacation.
would have to be as soon as we can,
Yeah.
based on the public notification requirements.
I think we should hire a consultant to our I&I.
No.
Common sense will tell you how to do that one.
Right. It's the stuff we've
He
discussed.
actually made sense, the I&I guy that we did hire.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a long
Did
time
make
ago.
sense, didn't he?
And we got sued.
Yes.
All right, is
Made a lot
there?
of sense.
Yes.
I don't know why.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-0, we'll schedule a rate hearing on that as soon as, okay. I think I've seen the Griffins poking their head in the door there.
Want to go see?
If you could.
Okay, here we go.
You know when, the next meeting, so this won't be continued, nothing else about the rates until you have a rate hearing, is that what's gonna happen?
The rate hearing would deal with I&I, not water, but we would, next meeting, I hope to be able to say, here's some ideas of what the water rates can look like going forward.
Very close.
Okay,
Very close.
okay.
Good night, everyone.
Okay.
You as well.
And we have, is it Mara and Steve? Yes, from Albany Road. And if you recall, they had had a very high water bill. They put in a lawn, and they were asking, could we, and as a result, since they didn't have a second meter, they had a very high sewerage bill. And we said that, okay, we'll look and see what it would have done had you had a second meter. And the water comes up very close, of course, the sewer, and I just looked at the first water bill, which was the highest one. It looked like they would save like about $700 on their sewer bill. So the question is, it's similar to if you've had a leak where the water didn't go down. This is a little bit different because there was it was intentional use as opposed to I got a water that broke, a pipe that broke or a hose or whatever, which we've seen and has been standard practice. One of the things that if we were to do this, I would say if we're going to pretend that they had a second meter, that we would require before we would abate anything that in fact they get a second meter, have it installed. I don't know, do we inspect those things, Rick? I know it's like $225. So the whole process there. The other thing, and I thought of this later, was as another condition is, did they follow the water management practice when they were using this water? In other words, you're at 29 Albany, that's an odd number, which was Monday, Thursdays are the only watering days. We have records of showing what days you used, and if you followed that, then I would make a motion that we abate the sewer, the amount, as if they had a second meter, based on the condition that they, one, get a second meter, have it installed, it's inspected, which does cost a little bit of money, and that they did follow the water management practice, which is 2 days a week, which we can find out. And if we didn't, then I would not abate it if you were watering every day in violation of that. I don't know if anybody even has any thoughts as whether they wish to abate because it is something new that we've never done.
I think that's not a bad idea,
All right?
because if they did have the meter,
Mm-hmm.
then they would have been charged. It's $700 difference? That's
Yeah,
what the difference
yeah,
is between.
I would be able to give, Mary, here's the actual calculations, and it goes across a fiscal year, and it's 3 pages of calculations, which I've done a couple times to make sure that I'm in line, but,
I sort of agree with you.
okay.
Is there any way of telling what their daily usage was back then?
Yes.
Can we do
What
that?
I did is I went
we saw
back
that
to
information.
To
when
find
their
out if-
water meter usage was a regular amount, and I believe that I figured that it was 2,412 cubic feet per quarter was what was their normal prior to putting in the lawn and the irrigation when it went way up. So using that figure, then you can figure a sewer cost, which would be at 100% of the rate, not 80%, which is the case that we
Bill, what I'd
figured.
like to know is, how much water were they using during this time period daily?
Oh,
Was
well.
it the same thing every day, or?
Well, that's
like 2
why,
days a week like
that's
it was
why I'm
supposed to
saying
be?
I would want to make sure that they followed the water management
Right.
thing. If they were watering every day,
I
then
would
I'm
not
saying, wait a
support
minute,
it. Rebate
that's, you're violating some other policy. But if you are, it sort of lines up with our sort of standard practice. But they, in the May through August, they used 12,000 cubic feet, 12,875 cubic feet. And I was looking at their normal usage prior to doing the lawn was 2,014 and 12, which means they were using outside, and this bill, again, based on my estimate, would be 10,463 cubic feet,
Right.
which would be going through the second meter, and that's how I figured it.
But what I'd like to know is, was it a daily thing or a 2
Well, that's why
days
I'm
a
making
week?
that as a condition. If it was being run
Right.
every day, then I'm reluctant to give a break when,
They were violating something
we're
else.
violating something
Right.
else. But
I just want to say,
Yes.
when we first came in, full disclosure, I
Yeah.
had a very sick daughter who was psychotic, and I did not pay attention to anything. So if I violated something, I did it not because I wanted to, because I wasn't paying attention. And I had a very sick mother.
yeah, okay.
No excuses, but that
Yeah.
is true, that's what happened, so
Mhm.
I'm just letting you know
Yeah.
that that's what happened.
And
And
we-
so, I'm sorry if that's the case, but this is so prohibitive for us, and I know, Lynn, I know last time we talked, you said, you have to pay extra for, and no doubt, we would pay money for, we're not asking you to give us money back for that, all we're
Yeah.
saying is that, you know what, we're willing to get the meter, we didn't know we
Yeah.
would get a meter.
Where do we get the meter anyway?
And
It's just, you end up with another account that's.
I spoke to you on the phone about that and getting in touch with the women up there and we can,
Yeah,
and
we
there's-
just
you'll have to
want-
get a plumber as well and
Right.
it'll be a concerted
We're
effort.
totally willing to do it
Right.
now and do the right thing. So I didn't look at your website, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, no, I understand, but
I'm just
that
going to be
we're,
honest with you and let you know.
there's two things. One, we're, something that potentially is establishing a precedence, which,
Huge precedent.
yes.
That's
and-
my question, what are you gonna do for the other 1,300 people?
Well, that's why I'm saying we want to, that it would be if we wish to pretend you have a second meter, you got to get it before and have it installed before we would ever give any money back. And I was thinking later is, well, if we were violating the water practice, then this becomes, whenever I want to put a lawn in, it's only going to cost me $200, $225 to get a second meter, and I'm in. And I don't have to do it going forward. That's my
Well, we're
concern.
still going to put the water meter in and we're
Right.
going to pay attention to everything.
Well, you'd certainly want to at this point.
We want
Yeah.
to anyways, you know?
So-
I don't know what to say.
All right, well, Glenn, have you any thoughts on,
No.
John? If
Just if there was a violation of the watering days.
Right.
I would be inclined to not offer a
Okay.
rebate.
John?
No, I have no comment.
No comment. Patrick?
I think, like I say, I haven't changed my mind. I think it's not a bad idea. I know what you're saying, but they're going to, before they get their credit,
Right.
they're going to show the town that they have put in a second meter.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I'm saying that I want to make sure that one had.
Well, Judy would know exactly what
Oh,
day
yeah,
they
no,
use all
we'll,
the
that we
water.
will, and I don't know what the answer is, but except for I know that on the
can
number
get
is, house number is 29, it is Monday and Thursdays, and.
You can see the,
And, yeah, so if it is, then, okay, I'm
I
understanding.
can tell you the answer to the question.
Yes,
It was violated.
Yeah, we saw data, I think, in our last
Did we
meeting.
see that?
in
No,
any
okay.
case. If I recall, I
Well,
don't have it. in front of me.
This property did not adhere to the water management
Right.
laws.
Well, you can make your motion. Bill,
Right.
If you want to make your motion.
I'll make my motion.
yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor
what?
say
For what?
that approving an abatement on the sewer amount, reducing that, and with the conditions that they get the second meter installed before any money goes out, and that they did not violate the water.
Rick just said they did.
Well, I haven't,
Based on what I saw, yes.
okay,
And they'll give us a report, won't they?
Hmm?
Right?
we can, yes,
Okay. That's fair.
all right.
So how can you approve that if it's a
Well,
It's
violation?
not approved yet.
It's not been approved, it's with three conditions.
conditions.
And if it was, they were watering twice a week, but it was on the, we have people that we've waived the thing if they said, oh, I thought it was every other day with something or other, and, we say, okay, or I was on the wrong days, because we did change it. It used to be Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, or something like that.
They follow the spirit
And
of
they,
the law.
yeah, they follow the spirit. We've said, all right, just do it.
No, I understand.
Well,
What are you looking for? What do you want Bernie to bring you?
just, do they meet the three conditions? That's it, and, we can take a look at it, if it's like every day, then no, if it's like, okay, there's been an occasional violation, then the board can say, all right, and we'll just see. We read the meters every day, so we'll be able to know for certain. My concern is that if we don't put that in, then people will just say, well, I can just put in a lawn, and, oh, okay, I have to pay $225, and that's what the cost of a second meter is, and whatever the cost of a plumber is, that's on them.
Yeah, but not everybody's gonna say that. I mean, this is specific to this particular case.
But
Because the house is connected to the sewer system.
Right,
Those that have water only
right.
wouldn't be as much of a concern. In terms
They-
of violating, they're gonna violate.
Well,
They're
but
gonna-
then they don't have
no
a,
regard for the sewer.
but they don't have in that case, there's no, they just pay for the water. They don't have a sewer, we're looking to abate their sewer, not doing their
Right,
water.
but how is it gonna prevent anybody from saying, well, I'm just gonna put a lawn in and I'm gonna water it?
And then you can abate my sewer.
They
No,
don't have any sewer.
Forget the abatement of the
Yeah.
sewer.
In which case, I'm saying they're gonna pay their water bill, because it came out, essentially, that wasn't the exact same number, but it came out, on the bill, it says your water costs this, and your sewer costs.
Yeah, but I guess I don't understand what your concern is with, I mean, how, if somebody's gonna put in a lawn, they don't have sewer.
Right,
Patrick puts in a lawn, he doesn't have sewer.
Right.
He irrigates every day,
Every day.
right.
every single day, okay?
It's a swamp.
And they come and ask for a thing, we'd say, you violated the watering policy.
But
No,
I'm not
there
asking
isn't.
for anything. Because I don't have sewer.
No, but you could say, well,
We could potentially come in and say,
my bill's
my
high.
bill's astronomical.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. But you use the water.
Right.
right.
Isn't it kind of like the older
They're
guy
gonna
that came
pay
in?
for all their water.
No, I understand that,
Right.
but the biggest issue is the floodgate opening for those that are in the same
It is a
situation.
policy change, you're
Yeah,
right.
it's a
Right,
huge
and,
policy.
and that's why I'm just asking, and the reason that I later, in fact, later today, thought, well, wait a minute, we'd certainly want to make sure that we were following the water management policy.
Right, to your point, if somebody had a leaky toilet, or not even.
Not a
leaky
toilet,
a
it's gotta be.
broken pipe in the basement.
Broken pipe, yeah, that's.
Water that you know did not go into the sewer.
Leaking toilet, just screw it.
Right. If it's a broken thing, we've had hoses, whatever, we verified it, and that's why, the
Okay,
only
so-
reason I considered thinking about it was,
So it's the three conditions.
right. Gotta get the meter, gotta have it installed, and inspected, and then that they,
Good faith.
good faith following the water management policy. And what we would abate, we would lower the sewer amount. The water you pay for, and it really ends up being very close, whether it's
What rate are we gonna charge the water at?
just leaving the existing water line the
Through
way
the
it
inclining
is.
block?
Yeah, and it
Not the-
already
Not the
is.
seasonal rate?
No, it's already using the inclining block rate.
Bill,
Right.
why are we even talking about this if there was a violation of the water policy?
Well, can
You
we
know,
just vote
right
on
there,
the motion
otherwise-
and then they don't meet the conditions, or they
Yeah.
do, and then we'll just,
They didn't.
okay, but let's get the evidence and let's just move on, I think, with our night.
There's your evidence right there.
And
Based on the information I was shown.
Yes, but
And I saw the
if
same
we're
thing,
doing
I
something,
remember.
we would be setting precedents, and I want to make sure that the precedent is set so that
I agree.
you would say, if we ever do this, and there's a potential that we might see, that these are the conditions, and I think it's probably unlikely, but
You're asking
you never
for
can
trouble.
tell.
I
And we
agree.
need the data.
So we have a
Just
motion
provide- Yes,
and a
we have a
second.
motion, it's been seconded, all those in favor?
I know you're the chairman, but,
Yes.
anyways.
We've got a motion, it's been seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So you said no?
No.
You said no?
Yep.
3-2.
You said what? Okay, 3-2 in favor with those conditions.
It's stupid because they can't make it.
I understand, we'll see,
Everybody,
we'll
not just
see.
for this
Yeah.
case.
So,
If it comes up
Okay.
again,
So
Bill,
you've just set a precedent.
we have set a precedent that I think we can live with
You think?
going
You do, how about the girls that work in the office?
Yeah.
They
You
don't.
can live with it, okay?
We
But
do.
If they get 1,300 requests for this,
Then, if they get 1,300 requests,
or even 100, Bill,
Send them to.
even if they get 100, I will be amazed.
you'd be amazed what you won't have to deal with.
That's true.
Bill, can I say something?
Yes, you may.
We both appreciate the whole
Right.
committee's consideration, but we did get a phone call in June.
Yeah.
My husband got one. I really wish that somebody had said, do you know that you're going over your water and you should put a meter in?
The
I
option of
really
the
wish
meter.
Yeah.
that somebody said
I
something.
believe the call told them that they were using an excessive amount
Right.
of water.
Which is what
Didn't,
we,
didn't make any reference to the,
No.
meter, right?
generally,
I
we-
didn't say anything about the meter, I said
No, no.
it was irrigation.
yeah.
I wish someone said the
Yeah.
meter, but we were really busy, you
Yeah.
know,
No,
at the time.
I understand, but it's, we try and deal with things not only just with an individual case, but looking to see
get it.
how we setting,
It's
and,
what
the
it is.
other lady who's been here, multiple times, and I keep telling her, look, I understand your situation. We could come up with an answer for your 6 units, but, on East Street, they're building 186 units there. We have to come up with a policy that works for everything, not just the individual case.
Well, we got that, and then we had a flood because of the monsoon.
Yeah.
Down into our basement, we ruined our basement.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah.
So we really had a bad year.
I
And
understand.
then we didn't get coverage for that.
Oh.
Said they-
All right.
It's just been,
Thank
well,
you.
it's been a bad year,
Yes.
whatever.
Thanks for the
What-
help.
How are we gonna find it?
We'll call up about the meter anyway.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
what should we do about the meter, like,
Do you
how do we-
Just-
buy it from the town, or do you buy it from?
if you just contact the office, they'll take care of
They'll
setting
schedule an
up.
appointment, you'll have to, not only that, you'll have to hire a plumber as well.
Yeah.
There's certain, and they have step-by-step process right in the office, so yeah,
Okay.
just make an
Got
appointment.
it, thank you very
All right,
much.
Yeah.
thank you.
At least we know the policies.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right,
Thank
thanks.
you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
All right,
And you'll get back to us anyway, regardless,
on,
on the meter?
oh, okay, well, we can, well, no, if you apply for the second meter, that'll,
Oh.
yeah,
Okay. Thank
okay?
you very much.
Yeah. All right, number 3, request for consideration, 710 East Street, All right.
I have sympathy for this
Yeah.
fella. Can I change the precedent on leaking toilets? Feel bad for this guy. It's on Social Security, 78 years old.
No, you can ask, but I would say no.
That's the condos that the other ones get all the time.
They have it, in see in Munis, they have a breakdown.
This is,
on
High Plains Street,
contact,
right next to the-
whether or not they called, whether or not a
710
note
right
was
across.
left, whether or
Kendall
not
Street. Kendall Street.
emails,
Yeah.
however.
That's what
By
that's.
Woodward.
One of the problems that
By
they do
Woodward.
have is that
No,
we
she's
don't
down by
have the
school.
phone number or contact information for, and they go
That's
through
very restaurant.
hunting,
710's up
you
by
know,
Kendall.
for old phone books.
By
that-
Woodward.
They do their due diligence.
Yeah, by Woodward.
on how to
The
get
train, old
Yeah.
train tracks.
Okay.
Diamond Pond.
Yeah.
Policy review number 3. This was a leaky toilet. Unfortunately, our precedent has been the water went through the meter and went
What
through.
if he puts a second meter and informs us he didn't buy it?
And if he waters that, puts in a lawn, we'll talk to him, so.
You know,
As long as he hasn't violated the waterfall.
that water went through the other, remember I had that same situation with
Yeah.
one of our tenants?
Yep.
So I told them about this, and they were so shocked that that much water could go through a toilet that they offered to pay without me saying anything. They said, we never realized that that could, you know, a
No,
leak in a
and
toilet can
a lot
cost
of
you.
people
A lot of people
realize
don't.
there's water in a
Yeah,
toilet.
A lot of
that's
people
like
don't, but-
$800 or something, I forget.
But when you're a homeowner or renter or whatever, you have certain responsibilities, and obviously if,
And it's, you know,
If it's
it's
brought to your
harder to see
attention-
with a toilet because the water disappears, but if
Right.
it was a faucet, just put a pail there and see how fast it fills up, and you go, oh,
exactly.
it,
So what are we doing with this one?
we're gonna have to tell them that, our policy is if it went through the meter, and went into the sewer, we have, the bill has to be paid. All right.
You want to vote on that?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we send a letter to the customer explaining our policy and that if the water goes through the meter and it ends up in the sewer, then the bill is valid and it must be paid. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
All right, 4-0.
Abstain, 2 abstain.
Oh, 2 abstentions, okay. Last item, discussion, low income rate proposal. Glenn?
Yes, we talked about this briefly at our last rate hearing, and it was mentioned in the Abraham's report. So if we do decide to do a ready-to-serve charge, as Bill mentioned, that would be a disproportionate impact on low water users, which tends to correlate with low income users. So if we do go in that direction, then I think we should have a program that we could implement relatively easily, I think, to give a different rate for people who qualify. And the question is, how would people qualify? I spoke to a couple other communities. The one that I liked the most was the Dedham Westwood Water District. They have a similar program, and according to the director over there, they are not interested in evaluating people's income levels and whether or not they qualify to be a low income, and so they rely on the utilities. So all regulated utilities are required to have a low income rate assistance program. Eversource, National Grid, Columbia Gas, they all have a program, and I believe they rely on LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. And so I got some numbers from Eversource. I got some numbers from LIHEAP. Eversource has 443 people, residents, households in Walpole that qualify for low-income rate assistance, and LIHEAP has closer to 200. And the reason there's a big difference is, first of all, there's a lot more households that receive electricity in Walpole than there are that receive water. And so under the program that I'm proposing, renters wouldn't qualify, so renters also get electric. So you can't be a renter, you have to own the home, your name has to be on the deed, and you have to already qualify through Eversource. They already screen all their applicants. And so the number that I came up with is somewhere around 200, which is what Dedham Westwood has, about 200 participants, and they have a similar number of water connections as we do. They have a little bit more than us, but by a couple hundred. And so if we do something, if we follow the Abraham's report, they're offering a 25% discount on the ready-to-serve charge. That would cost us somewhere around $20,000. And if we don't do a ready-to-serve charge, I still think we can do a low-income rate, but I would probably yield to the office to find out exactly what the best way to do it is. But one,
Well, that was my,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, my concern is, if I qualify with the electric company or whatever, I
What would
somehow,
the parameters be?
I gotta bring that information to the folks in the office.
It'd have to be a special billing.
Yeah, and then, can that be a temporary thing that, I lost my job, whatever, but I find a job 4 months later, do I somehow
think if
get
you-
off it? How do we?
So
I
you,
can have them check with Denton Westwood, see how they do it.
yeah,
I mean,
that'd be
that's-
great. She's very helpful. I spoke with her.
The
She's
issue
great.
is just the mechanics, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, and
So
what
I think
talked about
Dedham
earlier
Westwood
is.
has them reapply once a year, every
Yeah,
year.
all right, so if you're in, you're.
You're good for a year, you're good for 4
the-
bills.
Okay, and if you're, and if you are still on in the second year, you're going off unless you come back in again?
Yeah, exactly. You
Okay.
automatically get
All right.
get purged.
Well, that was the
Can I
thing.
ask, what is the intent here? What is the?
Well, the intent is to offset, well, two things. One is, if we do a ready-to-serve charge, is to offset the burden that's going to be placed on a user or a low-income user. And if we don't do a ready-to-serve charge, I still think we're going to need to raise rates, or we're going to have to take a close look at our rates here, whether we do higher blocks or not. I think we're going to be putting the burden back on our ratepayers, and I'm concerned that there are low-income households out there that could use a little bit of extra help. I'm not talking about a huge amount of money. I'm talking about $20,000. I know it's another $20,000 that has to come from somewhere. Go ahead,
Yeah,
John.
well, I would just say, I think, first of all, I think the people that are most needed are not gonna be homeowners, they're gonna be renters.
That's true,
And
and they would not qualify.
People, and the people who live in public housing already live in assisted housing. And I think the problem is, there's so many social service agencies all trying to help this particular group, and everybody's got their own little programs, like you just mentioned from the utilities.
Yep.
I mean, at some point, not every division of government has to have its own tailored program to help. We got the zoning thing coming up on the town meeting of, what do they call it? Not- Inclusionary zoning.
Inclusionary zoning, right.
Yeah.
It's,
At some point,
It's a modest,
well, no, it's
bump.
targeted, but I think it's
And
missing the
targeted.
big target, basically. It's a tokenism, it's politically correctness.
one of
which
the
is-
things.
Well, I think it'll
It's
actually
all
be,
over the place.
it'll actually help some people who could use the help. Maybe you don't care about,
No, I don't.
$15
they
or
have the right
$20.
people. I would challenge that. I don't think there's any way you could prove they help the people that need it the most.
Would it apply to sewer? as
Absolutely
well?
doesn't.
Well, their income has to be 60% of the median income.
Yeah,
in
what
order to
I'm
qualify.
thinking about doing is.
Those people get plenty of other
hopefully
assistance
next
as well.
meeting.
They get
is
some
say,
other assistance,
Here's
sure.
There's other groups
some
that need
things
it even
without the ready-to-serve, with the ready-to-serve done it differently. Okay, if it's 20,000, how we could do, adjust that, the idea
Abrams
of,
was supposed to do for you.
pardon me?
What Abrams was supposed to do for you.
Well, what an idea.
Yeah.
So, and I've already started and come up with, because we certainly, as one of the things the Abrams report does say, is you cannot just say, we will continually draw on the retaining earnings. You will run out.
Yeah.
And
then
so
we won't have any
we
money
are
to
going to
leave.
have to set the rates so that they meet, what's budgeted for.
Well, so-
And that's the way I'm approaching it, that
I know John Hasniger is not in support of this, and that's okay, but do the other board members have a position on whether or not this would be worth pursuing? The cost is nominal, I think. The targeted beneficiaries is...
Well, we did take a vote, if
complicated.
were we interested in investigating it, and I think it was a 5-0 vote, that, yeah, we'd be interested to see, and you've come up with some things, and I'll try and work it in
Okay.
as a rate so we can see what the impact, and as is clearly is known, you give lowest somebody's, something else has got to be raised. The pie is a certain size.
That's right.
I'm interested in it. interested, and I'm not gonna vote on it right this minute.
No, no.
No.
But I wanna see about what happens with this ready-to-serve charge, which
Well,
I'm dead set
Yes,
against.
that's why.
Because I think we had one bad year. We may not see that again for quite some time.
Well, the only thing I can just show, and it's on the first page, we set our rates based on 88,000 thousands, and we were at 85,000 in FY17, we were at 80,000 in
Right, we keep giving
FY18.
people rebates for low-flow toilets and everything else.
And, well, the
And then
thing
we had
is,
the wettest summer on record.
well, I'm just saying, John, is that we have to adjust some, how we've created the rates.
Well,
to
maybe we're
account-
using too much money.
Well, we just approved the budget. If you think that there's something in the budget that's cutting the salaries or expenses.
I didn't notice.
You know,
Well,
we
like
can do
something
that.
like we didn't hire the Abrams Group, a waste of that time,
Well,
In hindsight,
that-
sure.
You're right.
You know,
stuff like that.
They weren't supposed to.
how much did we pay the Abrams Group?
Too much.
15.
The original contract was for 10,
I know we had to,
and then there was an
an
addendum
addendum, so. Anyways,
of like 4,000 or 5,000.
I think it was 15.
I'm looking for a motion.
You're not gonna get it out of me right now.
Well, motion for what?
I'm asking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move on.
I'll
All right, we
second
got a
that
second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye, all right.
All right, it's a motion.